Back you with SABC News. In our current affairs slot tonight, we take a look at issues surrounding initiate schools. Over 300 initiates have died in South Africa over the past 5 years. Greed and negligence have been blamed, and with another initiate season almost upon us, our contributing editor Vuyo Mvoko caught up this week with traditional and government leaders in the Eastern Cape, one of the most affected provinces, to find out if there's a plan to curb the carnage.
Prince Ncamashe, let me start with you. The new initiation phase is almost upon us. As soon as the boys finish writing their exams, they are going to want to go through their rites of passage. I guess the question many South Africans are asking themselves now is whether we have put systems in place to make sure that the carnage we've seen over the past few years does not happen again, ever.
Indeed. I just want to confirm that as the House of Traditional Leaders, working together with all the strategic role players, starting with our department and other departments, we took a strategic decision to make sure that we isolate these issues so that we do not employ a general methodology such that we targeted the area around Pondo Land. We have since embarked on a outreach program wherein we targeted the individual traditional councils. One, to enquire from traditional leaders and the communities as to what is it that has not been done, which needs to be done, so as to eliminate these fatalities that seem to continue to haunt this important custom. And indeed, I can safely say there was a good response, such that we have then requested the traditional leaders of the various and respective traditional councils to ensure that when the season kicks in, they take charge of this custom. So that's where we are as we stand.
MEC, the question, I guess, is what was the problem before? In other words, what led to the carnage you saw? Over 300 people over the past 5 years from what was submitted or what came out of Parliament recently.
Well, let me first reiterate the same position that this we cannot only achieve as government, as we may also know that it's a matter that affects single family households, decision makers, parents to the boys, siblings, and those that are supposed to ensure that this ritual is kept in the manner that is consistent with our own tradition. The second issue that I want to say is that we are now seeing a rapid rise and increase of family structures collapsing. The peer pressure that is always affecting the decision-making structure of our families. The lack of respect and coherence in the whole tradition. As Inkosi next to me is indicating, the eastern side of the Eastern Cape, where this is a problem, we are seeing the elders failing to take initiative, others refusing to partake in the whole process, maybe because some have never gone through this passage to manhood in the manner that is prescribed. And young boys, because of the peer pressure, because of institutions of learning and so on, are getting advices not from their own parents. And they are taking this risk of going to the mountains at times without their parents knowing. What we are intending to do going forward is to intensify the campaign. Two is to deregister ingcibis that we have discovered. They are part of the death and the mutilation of young boys. As we have seen, this is not literally what we call circumcision in the interpretation sense. The touting of boys taken away from their parents unknowing, nobody's making a follow-up, the issue of diet, the issue of dehydration, the preparation of those circumcision huts, because at times it's winter season, nobody is clear, the age is a problem. Those that are traditional surgeons are as young as those that are initiates themselves. And there is this generational problem as also intergenerational gap that we have identified. And I think it's the question of saying, what is the role of the males in those particular areas? And we have said, together with traditional leadership, starting from Inkosi, Inkosana, our kingdoms, as we are going to intensify the campaign, we have decided as the department, for instance, to increase not only the visibility, but to establish monitoring and intervention teams that must go all around, inspect, closure and seizure of equipment that is being used, at times that is not sterilized, noting the kinds of diseases that we have. And these are the matters that we are going to conclude before the summer season is dawning.
Now, Mr. Samaela, health is playing a supportive role.
Yes.
What support are you giving traditional leaders? What support are you giving to the other departments like the department of that Mr. Kwoshana is responsible for, to make sure that nothing, what we've seen over the past few years never ever happens again?
Thank you very much. Let me just firstly explain the position of the Department of Health in the context of the traditional circumcision. Ideally, as the Department of Health, we should not be coming very strongly in the issue because this is a traditional issue, it's not a health aspect. But we have got specific interest in this program. Specifically, one, we are encouraging the circumcision because in the context of health, we see the practice of circumcision as contributing to minimizing the chances of getting infected with a number of diseases, which I can make example of, like HIV, which has been found that men who are circumcised have got fewer chances of getting infected. We have got that interest at heart as the Department of Health. The second interest that we have is that these boys should not, during the process of doing what is right, found themselves to be at risk of contracting other complications. Like, for example, in the process of not observing health standards in doing what is right, then people get to be infected with a number of problems. The last issue is the issue of the complications that come after these boys have not been managed in a proper way. Because all these boys, at the end of the day, they end up in hospitals. And they create a lot of challenges now in terms of the resources that are available. But more than anything, are the complications that come out of these boys. As we have said, this season alone, we have admitted in the hospital about 359. Of those 359, the chances are that those boys need to be followed and be managed in terms of dealing with them, not only of their physical nature, but again in terms of their social and psychological aspects that relates to a tradition, a practice that has not gone right, which was supposed to have gone right. So we have got quite a number of interests there in context with in relation to that. We have provided a number of support, therefore. We're working very closely with the House of Traditional Leaders and local government in terms of providing the resources to be able to reach out to those. We are part of the program that they are doing, and we are engaging on this outreach program in terms of the imbizos and everything. We're supporting all that.
I'm going to ask you to hold your thoughts right there. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be back right after this.